All right, today we're going on a microscopic investigation. We're going to put two of the most common culprits behind our sniffles and fevers right under the microscope. So what really separates them? Let's find out.
You know the feeling, right? You're sick, you feel just awful, and you just want that quick fix. But then your doctor says, sorry, antibiotics won't help with this one. So why not? Well, the answer to that question unlocks a pretty big secret about the microscopic world all around us.
Okay, so let's meet our two microscopic suspects, bacteria and viruses. We're going to break down what they are, how they operate, the kind of trouble they cause, and most importantly, how we actually fight back. Time to start the investigation.
All right, first up, the suspect profiles. We need to figure out what these things are, fundamentally. And you're about to see they're about as different as a living, breathing animal and a line of computer code.
So let's start with suspect A, bacteria. Now these guys are the real deal. They're true, living organisms, some of the oldest life forms on our entire planet, actually. Think about it. A single bacterium is a complete, self-sufficient little cell. It eats, it grows, it makes more of itself, all on its own. No question about it, this thing is alive.
Okay, now for suspect B, the virus. And this is where things get really weird. See, a virus isn't even a cell. It's not really alive. The best way to think of it is like a tiny little packet of instructions, a piece of genetic code, basically, all wrapped up in a protein shell. By itself, it can't do a single thing. It's like a ghost in the machine, just waiting for a machine to hijack.
When you put them side by side like this, the differences are just wow. They're night and day. Bacteria, living organisms. Viruses? Nope, not alive. Bacteria make their own energy. Viruses have zero metabolism. Bacteria can reproduce all by themselves. But viruses? They have to hijack a living cell to do anything. Even their basic blueprints are different. Bacteria always use that classic double-stranded DNA. But viruses? Man, they can use DNA or RNA, single or double-stranded. It's like they're playing two completely different sports.
And let's talk about size for a second, because the scale here is just mind-boggling. Seriously, imagine a human cell as the size of a basketball. Okay? A bacterium, next to it, would be about the size of a single grain of rice. And the virus? It would be a tiny speck of dust, often 100 times smaller than even that grain of rice. We are talking about completely different worlds of scale here.
Okay, so now we have a solid profile on what these things are. Next up in the investigation, their MO, their modus operandi. How do these suspects actually make more of themselves and spread?
When it comes to bacteria, their method is pretty straightforward. It's a process called binary fission. A single bacterium just makes a copy of its DNA, gets a little longer, and then just splits right down the middle. Bam! Two perfect clones. It's simple, it's efficient, and it is incredibly effective.
And when I say effective, I mean fast, like shockingly fast. In the right environment, some bacteria can double their numbers every 20 minutes. Think about that. 1 becomes 2, 2 become 4, and in just 10 hours, a single bacterium can explode into a colony of over 1 billion. It's exponential growth on a crazy scale.
Viruses, on the other hand, well, their method is a lot more sinister. Remember, they can't reproduce on their own, so they become these tiny little pirates. A virus will float up to one of your cells, latch on, and then inject its genetic code right inside. From that moment on, your cell's normal job is over. It's been hijacked. It becomes a zombie factory, forced to build thousands and thousands of new viruses until finally it just bursts open, releasing the new horde and destroying itself in the process. It's brutal.
And this really is the key thing to remember. Without a host cell, a virus is completely and utterly helpless. It's a ghost. This is its biggest weakness. It's just a piece of software that can't run unless it finds a computer to hijack.
Okay, so at this point, both of our suspects sound like pretty bad news, right? But here's where our investigation is about to take a really surprising turn. What if I told you one of these suspects isn't always the bad guy?
Get ready for this because it might actually blow your mind. Less than 1%. Of all the bacteria we know about are actually pathogenic, meaning they make us sick. The other 99+%, they're either totally harmless or, get this, they're actually essential allies.
That's right. Your own body is home to trillions of good bacteria. We call it your microbiome. And these little guys,
They help you digest your food, they create vitamins you need to survive, and they even act as your personal bodyguards, fighting off dangerous microbes. We literally could not live without them. They're part of us.
Viruses, though, that's a very different story. Because their whole game plan is to hijack and destroy our cells, well, that pretty much makes them pathogenic by nature. I mean, there are some exceptions, but for the most part, a virus's success is our body's loss. It's a zero-sum game.
So, all of this, their biology, their methods, their impact, it all leads us to the final, critical part of our investigation. Since these two suspects are so fundamentally different, it only makes sense that we need completely different weapons to fight them.
And here we are, back at that big question from the beginning. Do antibiotics work on both? The answer is a huge flashing neon sign that says, no, they don't. Antibiotics are for bacteria, period. Against a virus, they do absolutely nothing.
And here's the crucial reason why. Think of antibiotics like a super-specific key, designed to fit a very specific lock. They target things that only bacteria have, like the special machinery they use to build their cell walls. Well, a virus doesn't have a cell wall. It doesn't have any of those locks. So taking an antibiotic when you have a virus, it's literally like trying to unlock a door that doesn't even have a keyhole. It's pointless.
So the strategy becomes pretty clear, right? You have to use the right weapon for the right enemy. You've got a bacterial infection, we bring out the antibiotics. But if it's a virus, our toolkit is totally different. We've got vaccines to prevent them in the first place, antiviral drugs that can help interfere with their whole hijacking process, and of course, the most powerful tool of all, your own immune system.
So there you have it. The evidence is in. Bacteria are living, self-sufficient cells. Viruses are these weird, non-living genetic hijackers. But all of this leads to one last really fascinating question that scientists still argue about. If something can make copies of itself, if it can evolve, and if it can completely change the course of life on Earth, does it really matter if it fits our neat and tidy definition of alive? Our little investigation here might be closed, but that question, that one's still wide open.